Okay, let's begin with our prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Upesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namasute Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So chapter 10, the opulence of the Absolute. We'll go to the synopsis and then just go through the 4 important verses in this chapter and then carry on with where we stopped. So let me get to the synopsis. Before we begin, let's pay our obeisances to Shri Radha Govinda. Okay, here we are. Synopsis of chapter 10. Lord Krishna, at the end of the 9th chapter, advises to fix the mind on him. Are you all able to hear me clearly?
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay. Then, hence describes his opulences on which a devotee can fix his mind and how to remember him when we see opulent, powerful, and beautiful things in creation. Conclusion of chapter 9 is that one should become a pure devotee of the Lord by focusing mind on the Lord. Then chapter 10 focus on description of Krishna's opulences by hearing, and that will increase our devotion. So 10.1 to 10.7 is about Krishna's position as the origin of everything. Then 10.8 to 10.11, these are very important verses, Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. 10.12 to 10.42, Arjuna's acceptance and his request to show the opulences. So everything rests on Krishna. And he is the cause of all causes. Everything is emanating from him. He is the cause of the spiritual world as well as the material world. So we'll go to the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. Quickly we'll read the verses because they are very, very important. They talk about Sambandha, Videya and Prayojana. Let's get to that slide and then we can carry on from that section. So we did all this last weekend. Okay. So Chatushloki Gita. This is like Bhagavad Gita in a nutshell. Okay. All the Gita Gnan is in these 4 shlokas. They're very, very important. You can memorize these 4 verses also. Aham sarvasya prabhu matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. So Krishna is giving very important information in these 4 verses. He's saying, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. The next, what does he say? In 10.9, we'll get there. Machchitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, their lives are surrendered to me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss, enlightening one another and conversing about me. Then 10.10. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayantite. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. 10.11. So you have done all this. Hope you have read the chapter also. Okay. Teshamevanukampartam aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayami atmabhavasto jnanadipena bhasvata. Out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So very, very important verses we just read. Actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, he talks about Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. He says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the central point of all relationships. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela. So he's saying very clearly, Krishna is the central point of all relationships. So it is Sambandha, relationship between us and Krishna. Acting in devotional service to him is one's real occupation. That is Abhideya, what it should do. Once you know this is your relationship with the Lord, what do? What activities should be performed? Acting in devotional service to him is one's real occupation. That is a real occupation. Everything else is, we are conditional souls, right? Conditioned souls. So we have some duties to perform, but this is our real occupation. And the attainment of love of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life, Prayojan. These three subject matters are described in the Vedic literature. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying. So these 4 verses actually gave us this information. We should understand this from those 4 verses. So, summary of section C, verse 10.12 to 10.18. Arjuna accepts Krishna's position and requests to hear more of his opulences. Arjuna refers to previous authorities, thus confirms Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also by his own realization. Prays to Krishna to hear more of his glories so that he can always think of him and remember him. Otherwise, Krishna will remain unknowable. A very interesting part of the chapter starts. Okay. Now here, this is also very important. This is Arjuna's prayers. Arjuna uvacha para brahma param dhama pavitram paramam bhavan purusham shashvatam divyam adidevam ajam vibhum ahustvam rishaya sarve devarshir naradastatha asito devalo vyasa swayam chaiva bravishi me. Arjuna said, you are the supreme Brahman, the ultimate, the supreme abode and purifier, the absolute truth and the eternal divine person. You are the primal God, transcendental and original, and you are the unborn and all-pervading beauty. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala and Vyasa proclaim this of you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. We are just reading this. When Arjuna spoke all this, probably he was in, full, complete ecstasy. That's what the purport also says. After hearing all these 4 verses, Arjuna he goes into ecstasy. He offers his obeisances. So he becomes free of all doubts. No more doubts that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Truth. So it becomes very clear that the Supreme is different from the individual soul. We are not equal. And there is the Lord who is the controller of all the other living entities and everything else. So that becomes very clear when we read Arjuna's prayer. And he is not flattering. Krishna is not saying, oh, this is my friend, let me flatter. No, some flattery. It's not flattering. Whatever Arjuna says in these 2 verses is confirmed by Vedic truth. And he's saying that also. He says, this is also confirmed by great personalities. And Narada is the chief of all those great personalities. So he boldly declares, you are Parabrahma. Brahma is Brahman. What is Brahman? We learned that already, right? Jiva, living entity, is also referred as Brahman. But this is Parabrahma. You say you are Parabrahma, means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So devotional service to Krishna removes all ignorance, and a devotee can understand his position as well as the Lord's position, and he can get rid of his material body and all these miseries just by understanding this. Krishna himself says that in 4th chapter. And even Vedas are affirming this. They are saying, through devotional service, you can understand the Supreme Lord. And the Upanishads also say that. They say Supreme Brahman is the rest for everything. And this Mundaka Upanishad, which says, if you're constantly thinking of the Supreme Lord, you actually, you realize the Supreme Lord. So the Vedas are actually, and Upanishads also talking about Krishna and giving information about the Supreme Lord like this. And it also says the Supreme Lord is the purest of the pure. So what happens to the pure devotee? What happens? He understands Krishna and he'll also become purified. So no more sinful activities. So all this is happening because of the Lord's mercy. How did Arjuna understand Krishna? It's only by the grace of the Supreme Lord Arjuna understood the supreme truth. So that is how we also understand. It's only possible by Krishna's grace and by his representatives. Only somebody like Prabhupada or some great acharyas, they can enlighten us. By their grace, we get to know all this. So what we are supposed to do, we have to surrender to Krishna, meditate on him, and then we become disinfected from all the sinful reactions. And then there is no birth and death, nothing. We can enter the spiritual world. So how Arjuna accepted Bhagavad Gita? He said, Krishna is Parabrahma. You are the supreme truth. Parandhama, you are the ultimate abode. Pavitram, the purest, untainted by material contamination. Paramam Bhavan, the absolute truth. Purusham, you are a person, supreme enjoyer. Purusha also means enjoyer. Shashvatam, eternal. Divyam, transcendental. Adidevam, original Lord. Ajam, the unborn. Vibhum, the greatest, accepted by all acharyas. Narada, Siddha, Devala, and Vyasa. You yourself are declaring it to me. I totally accept this as the truth. Arjuna is saying that. He's declaring. Neither demigods or the demons can understand your personality. 10.14, another important verse. Sarvametadritam manye yanmam vadasi keshava nahite bhagavan vyaktim vidurdevanadhanavaha. Oh Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the gods nor demons, O Lord, know thy personality. And in 10.15 is saying, Swayam evatmanatmanam vittatvam purushottama bhuta bhavana bhutesha deva deva jagatpate. Indeed, you alone, yourself, by your own potencies, O origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, O supreme person, Lord of the universe. You see, right in the introduction, Prabhupada says, you must accept and understand Bhagavad Gita just as how Arjuna understood Bhagavad Gita. So, here Arjuna has understood the Bhagavad Gita because of Krishna directly. Krishna is present in front of him. He is giving him all the information. So now how do we understand? Through the parampara system. So we should understand how Arjuna understood, that he is the first person who is giving us this first-hand information. So Krishna also said, right, the message was lost. That is why I have to repeat this to you. And you are non-envious of me. You are the greatest devotee, and that's why I'm giving you all this information. And Arjuna is also saying here, only devotees can understand. Only devotees can understand Krishna, and demons and all these other people, atheists, they cannot understand Krishna. One who does not have faith in the scriptures cannot understand Krishna. And he is not even known by demigods. So what can we say about common people and scholars who think they know too much, right? academic education is not enough. That is not the criteria to understand Bhagavad Gita. If somebody says, I know so much, I'm a PhD and I've read so many books, I have so many degrees and all, that is not enough. That does not mean they'll understand everything that is given in the scriptures. We have to understand what is given in Bhagavad Gita from the spiritual master only, from the mouth of a pure devotee. And we also know that the Supreme Lord is understood, the Supreme Truth is realized in three aspects, right? You know what are the three aspects? How do you understand the Supreme Lord? You are all unmuted. Okay, you can unmute and tell me. The Supreme Truth is realized in three aspects. We have been learning about that, right? What are the three aspects?
Brahman, Paramatman, and Bhagavan.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes. So the last stage of understanding of this absolute truth is to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Bhagavan. But many liberated people also cannot understand Krishna as the Supreme Person. They cannot understand his Purushottama. That's why Arjuna is referring to addressing him as Purushottama. One may understand he is Purushottama, but they may not understand he is the father of all living entities. So he's making sure, he uses that word. He's telling your Bhuta Bhavana. See, he's using all these terms. And then one may also understand, okay, he's father of all the living entities. So Arjuna also wants to call him the supreme controller. That's why he's saying Bhutesha. He's saying Bhutesha, the supreme controller of everyone. And then okay, one understands he is the supreme controller. But Arjuna is saying he's the origin of all the demigods also. Deva, you are the origin of all the demigods. Is making it very, very clear. So a person who understands this may not understand he is a proprietor. So he's using that word also, Jagatpati. You are the supreme proprietor. So this is how the truth is established. And we have to understand, just like how Arjuna is, telling us, all the questions Arjuna asks Krishna is not just for him. It is for all of us. It's the benefit of the entire humanity. So we have to make sure we read each and every word and understand as much as possible. If we understand all this, then automatically we can progress and we can understand Krishna as he is, not according to our own mental, speculation. So how should I meditate on you? In what various forms are you to be contemplated, O blessed Lord? Tell me again in detail, O Janardana, of your mighty potencies and glories, for I never tire of hearing your ambrosial words. See, in this material world, if a friend comes and says something, he has to measure his words. He may give so much information, but still we don't know how the other person is taking it. But here, Arjuna is very happy. He's so happy to know that his friend is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's saying, tell me more. When he says, okay, tell me, Krishna, who you are. He says, I'm the cause of all causes. I am the origin of this. And I am the proprietor. I am the sole enjoyer. I have a spiritual abode and I'm such a great personality. So many universes I own. All this. Arjuna is very happy. He's like, tell me more, tell me more. He's not envious. He's like, wow, how come this person is so rich? He's my best, nothing like that. He is so happy to hear it. He's saying, can you give me more information? But Krishna is guarded by his Yogamaya energy. That's why we cannot understand him. Common men, including demons and atheists, they can never understand Krishna because he's guarded by his Yogamaya energy. And that's why he's calling him Yogin. In these verses, Arjuna calls him Yogin, meaning Krishna, you're the master of the Yogamaya energy. So surrendered souls and devotees like me can understand you. Only they can understand his all pervasiveness. If Krishna is here also, there also, his energies are everywhere. He's still in his abode. So this they can understand because they have completely surrendered themselves into Krishna. And then, so he's telling, materialists cannot understand Krishna. They cannot understand him from spiritual perspective. They cannot understand him spiritually. So Krishna is advising them to concentrate their mind on physical things. So they can, see how Krishna is manifested by physical representations. We are going to see that now. How he is represented in physical representations. Why is that? Because a person who has no love for Krishna cannot always think of Krishna, right? So he has to think materially. So that's why the word Keshu cha bhaveshu, these words refer to material nature, physical things. So, now Krishna is going to tell us how he is represented in these physical things. And Arjuna is very much interested to hear more and more. And then the more it is like nectar, the more you hear about Krishna, the more we want to hear. We read novels, fiction, news, and so many modern stories, and so many things we read, right? Day in and day out. But they're all different from transcendental pastimes of Krishna. You get bored after some time. Maybe you read 2 times, but then after that, no, you don't want to touch it again, right? All these mundane topics don't interest us like that. But Krishna's topics are not like that. You'll never get tired. You can read them million times also, never get tired. They're so interesting. Okay. So they'll always remain fresh. Even if you read repeatedly, you'll read it again and again. So Krishna's pastimes are like that. So let's go over this quickly. The opulence of the absolute text 17 to 18. Arjuna requests to hear more about Krishna's glories. Please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. I am never satiated in hearing about you, for the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words. Advantages of hearing Krishna's opulences. Hearing increases remembrance. Always think of Krishna. Thus, by remembering Krishna, one can relish great nectar. One is never satiated by hearing about Krishna. There is a reference also here from Srimad Bhagavatam. Why Arjuna wanted to hear more about the all-pervading opulences of Krishna? Why did he want to hear? Arjuna is already satisfied with the understanding of Krishna and has no doubt about Krishna's position. But he still wants to hear for the sake of common people. He wants us to know. He wants everyone to know how great Krishna is. For the sake of a materialist. For personal absorption, Arjuna wants to know, how shall I constantly think of you? And then fourth reason, to taste the nectar. He wants to hear more and more and taste the nectar of his words. Okay, summary section D, verses 10.19 to 10.42. Krishna's opulences. Krishna describes the most prominent among his limitless, all-pervading opulences, names his opulences, and then explains that these opulences simply indicate a fraction of his glory because he pervades and supports the entire universe, the mere fragment of his total potency. We have gone through this in Bhagavad Gita also. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Antate Katayishyami Divyayatma Vibhutayaha Pradhanyatah Kuru Shrestha Nasti Anto Vistarasya Me. The Blessed Lord said, yes, I will tell you of my splendorous manifestations, but only of those which are prominent. O Arjuna, for my opulence is limitless. Krishna describes 82 of his opulences. We cannot understand the greatness of Krishna and the extent of his opulences because our senses are limited. We cannot comprehend the totality of Krishna's affairs. So Krishna knows this. He already knows. It's not possible for a common man to understand everything. So that's why he states this. He says, I will only, state only the principal manifestations of his different energies. Pradhanyata means principal. Vibhuti means opulences. Vibhuti refers to opulences, and Prabhupada mentions in the but Amara Kosha dictionary says Vibhuti means exceptional opulence. And impersonalists, they cannot understand all these exceptional opulences. Only a pure devotee will understand and he will relish hearing about all this. So let's go over this quickly. These are his most prominent opulences. So anything we see in this world, which is glorious, which is very beautiful, and say extraordinarily opulent, we should immediately consider that to represent Krishna's opulence. Krishna, that is Krishna's energy. Because of Krishna's mercy and Krishna's opulence, we can really, really perceive these things. Okay. And then he also says, we should understand it as a fragmental manifestation of Krishna's opulence. Whether it is in spiritual world or material world, it is no effort for him, nothing is so difficult for Krishna. It just says, why do you want to know all this? I support the whole manifestation, the whole entire creation, just with a fragment of my opulence. He says that. So let's go over this. Among Adityas is Vishnu, among light he is sun, Maruts, Marichi, among the stars he is the moon, among Vedas is Samaveda, among demigods is Indra, among senses he is the mind, among living beings he is life force, among Rudras he is Lord Shiva, among Yakshas and Rakshasas is Kubera, priests Brihaspati, generals is represented as Skanda, among the bodies of water is ocean, among the sages is Bhrigu, among vibrations is Om, chanting of holy name, sacrifices, among the immovable things is the Himalayas, trees, holy fig, sages of the demigods is Narada, among the singers of demigods is Chitraratha, and among the perfected beings, Siddhas is Kapila, among the horses is Uchchaishrava, lordly elephants, Airavata. So Krishna is actually describing what we can directly perceive. So he is describing only part of his variegated energy. We can perceive all this. That is why, because whatever my senses can perceive, only that I understand. That's why he is giving us this information. Among men, he is the monarch. Among weapons, he is Vajra. Among cows is Surabhi. Among procreators is Kandarpa, Cupid. Among serpents is Vasuki. Among snakes is Ananta. Among aquatic deities is Varuna. And among departed ancestors, Adyama. Among dispensers of law, Yama. Daityas. Among demons is Prahlad. Among subduers is time, beasts, lion, birds, Garuda, purifiers, wind, wielders of weapon, Rama, fishes, shark, flowing rivers, Ganges, creations. Among creations is the beginning, end, and also the middle. Among sciences is the spiritual science of the self. Among logicians, conclusive truth. Among letters is this aksharas, Among the compound words, dual word, Dvandva Samasa. Among creators is Brahma. So some more here. All devouring death and generator of all things yet to be. In women, he is represented like this: fame, fortune, speech, memory, intelligence, faithfulness, and patience. Among hymns is Bhrat Sama. Among poetry is Gayatri. Months, Margashira, that is November to December. Among seasons, he is the spring season, flower-bearing season. Among cheats is gambling. Among splendor is victory, adventure. Among strong is strength. Among descendants of Krishna is Vasudev. Among Pandavas is Arjuna. Among sages, Vyasa. Thinkers, Ushana. Punishments, rod of chastisement. Victory seekers, morality. Secrets, silence. And among wise is wisdom. So Lord Krishna's unlimited opulences. All this is mentioned again here. Let's read this also. Does anyone want to read this? You can raise your hand and read this. You can go over this quickly. Hare Krishna, Sanjeev Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Among demigods, of all the demigods is Indra, Adityas, Vishnu, Maruts, Mairachi, Rudras, Shiva, Yakshas and Rakshasas Kuvera, Vasus, Agni, generals Kartikeya, Gandharvas Chitrartha, creators Brahma, Daitya demons Prahalada, dispensers of law Yama, departed ancestors Aryama, cause of procreation Kandarpa, sages, of all sages I am Vyasa, great sages Bhrugu, sages among demigods Narada Muni, priest Braspati, perfected beings sage Kapila, great thinkers Kushana, Sukracharya, demigods, light, radiant sun, stars, moon, mountain, Meru, immovable Himalaya, water bodies, ocean, trees, banyan tree, purifiers, winds, flowing rivers, Ganges, creations, I am being middle and the end, months, Margasira, seasons, spring, I am inexhaustible time, no beings moving or non-moving can exist without me. Philosophical truth, I am super soul in all the living entities, heart, living beings, living force, and senses is mind. I am the beginning, middle, and end of all beings. I am the generation. I am generating seed of all existence. I am generating principle of all that is yet to be. Poetry, Gayatri, letters is A, compound words, dual compound, sciences, spiritual sciences of self, logicians, conclusive truth, hymns in the Samaveda, Bharat Sama, animals, horses,
Sama.
horses, Uchchaishrava, lordly elephants, Airavata, cows, Surabhi, serpents, Vasuki, many-footed Nagas, Ananta, aquatics, demigods, Varuna, fishes, shark, beast, lion, birds, Garuda, law and crime, subduers, time, wielders of weapon, Rama, cheats, gambling, means of suppressing lawlessness, punishment, weapons, thunderbolt. I am all devouring death. Qualities, wise is wisdom, secret things, silence. Those who seek victory, morality, splendid, splendor, woman, fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. I am adventure. I am victory. I am strength of life. I am the victory. I am strength of the strong. Humans and kings. Pandavas, Dhananjaya, men, monarch, descendants of Vrishni, Vasudeva. Vedic mantras, vibration, transcendental Om, sacrifices, chanting of the holy name, Vedas, Samaveda.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So Vasudeva is actually Krishna's father. Vasudeva is Krishna himself. So yes, so many, so much information in this slide. Let's move ahead. Furthermore, O Arjuna, I am the generating seed of all existences. There is no being moving or unmoving that can exist without me. O mighty conqueror of enemies, there is no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulences. Everything has a cause, and that cause, that seed, Krishna is saying that's me. The seed of manifestation is Krishna. So without Krishna's energy, nothing movable or immovable can exist. So he is omnipotent. Okay, Maya means that which is not. Whatever exists, whatever existence is not founded on the energy of Krishna is Maya. Yad yad vibhuti matsatvam shrimad uchitam eva va tadadeva vagachatvam mama tejo amsha sambhavam. Know that all beautiful, glorious, mighty creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. So this Krishna is so beautiful on the leaf. Athava Bahunaitina Kim Gnatena Tavarjuna Vishtabhyaham Idam Kritsnam Ekamshena Sthito Jagat. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. I'll unmute you all again. Sorry. Okay. So, how is Krishna represented throughout the entire universe? How is he represented throughout the entire universe? Krishna enters into all things as the super soul. From Brahma down to the smallest ant, all are existing because the Lord has entered each and every one and he is sustaining them. You can see that, spirit, soul in all of this living entity. This image also, it's so beautiful. So Krishna also discourages the worship of demigods because even the greatest of the demigods like Brahma and Shiva, they also represent only part of his opulence. Is Asamurdhva. Okay, it is mentioned. Asamurdhva means there is no one superior to Krishna and no one is equal to Krishna. He's saying that, and all the Puranas also say that. And why are we studying all these opulences? Why so much information about this opulence? Because when we study the descriptions of all these opulences and expansions of Krishna's energy, then we understand his position. Then we can fix our mind in the worship of Krishna. We'll understand how great he is. And slowly, we progress in our devotional path, devotional service. So that is the way of pure devotional service. So this chapter actually helps us, explains how to attain the highest devotional perfection. And then we can understand by whatever he's given us, because Lord Krishna's potent energy, we see in so many things. The powerful sun also gets its power from Krishna, so he is actually worshipable. We understand that Krishna is actually worshipable because of all these opulences. The opulence of the absolute. Text 42. Krishna supports and pervades the entire universe with a mere fragment of himself. Conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10. From Krishna's potent energy, even the sun gets its power, and by Krishna's partial expansion, the whole world is maintained. Therefore, Lord Krishna is worshipable. Chapter 10 explains how to concentrate mind in Krishna consciousness in full devotional service by hearing different opulences and expansions of Krishna's energies. Thus, chapter 10 explains how to attain the highest perfection, devotional perfection of association with the Supreme Lord. Devotional service and worship of Krishna are explained in Chatushloki Gita 10.8 to 10.11. So only Krishna can explain his Yogeshwarya, his mystic power, his opulences, because he knows. But he is not giving us all the information. He's saying, whatever you can perceive, that much I'm going to disclose. And Bhagavad Gita also discourages demigod worship. It is like if you want to worship Krishna, it is like Mataji gives that example, right? When you are in Krishna consciousness, it's like having 100 rupee with you. It has 10 rupees also, 5 rupees also, 20 rupees also. It's like Bhakti Yoga includes everything. It surpasses all the yogas. So if you want to go to Mumbai, you cannot purchase a ticket to some other place. Just like that. If you want to go to Vaikuntha, you want to go to Goloka Vrindavana, we should know the process, how to get there. So that is what Prabhupada is trying to, explain in all these puppets. So after reading Bhagavad Gita and understanding all these verses, trying to understand all this, now if you open Bhagavatam, you can really relish all the incarnations, past times. You'll really, adore more and more. Will enjoy Krishna's pastime. Of sections. Krishna's position as the origin of everything, the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna's acceptance and his request. Krishna's opulences are unlimited. We understood that. And then he's the origin of everything. He's very merciful to his devotees. And Arjuna is actually accepting his supreme position. He offered his prayers, obeisances, everything. And on his request, Krishna also described all his opulences, Vibhuti. And then he's the all-pervading super soul of everything that exists in the cosmos. Now, after hearing all this, Arjuna will desire to see that all-pervasive universal form, and he says, he requests him to show that universal form. And Krishna is going to show his universal form in chapter 11. Krishna first describes his universal form, and then he gives Arjuna the vision to see the universal form, and then he shows the universal form. And then Vishwarupa consists of everything that is in the universe. We are going to study that tomorrow. We'll do chapter 11 tomorrow. So I'll stop the live stream and we can take some questions.